welcome to Thursday Nighter Round 1 for the month of December. I am Michael Perry, and I am pleased to be joined by National Master OK.
Guys,
Few quick announcements before we jump into the games tonight. We have the Scholastic Grand Prix this Sunday, so you can see that attached flyer there. It's the first lap. There'll be, I believe it's 6 tournaments. Goes all the way up until May. 3,000 in prizes, but obviously, this is Scholastic K through 12. So if you're 25, 30, don't show up. They will not let you play. Next announcement, we have an Action Swiss this Saturday at the Castle. This is actually one of my favorite tournaments personally, so I might play. But yeah, you can see the flyer there. It's 6 rounds of 25 plus 10, so you're basically just getting a double Monday action quads. So if you like the Monday quads, then you should definitely show up to this. And make sure to sign up at least 2 days early, because if you're 2 days early, you don't have to pay as much. So make sure you sign up by Thursday. And then last but not least, we just want to mention that Dane is actually 2187 right now, his live rating. So he's pushing for NM. He is playing tonight. So I believe that will be the game we look at first. But yeah, so exciting to see if he can get NM this month. And then one last thing I did want to cover. I wanted to stay true to my word. Last month I had said we would cover the results because we had missed the Thanksgiving round. And Nathan Hoover and Eddie, they tied for first with 3.5 in the month of November. They both got $90. Congrats to them. I'm sure they both gained some rating. And then the open section, Brendan Foote won the November Thursday Nighter, and he also had 3.5. So 3.5 was the 3.5 was the winning score in November. But yeah, congrats to them. And okay, the floor is yours.
all right. Well, let's start off with Dane's game. He's playing with the white pieces against Matthew Krusak. And we'll start from the beginning. And so we have a Queen's Gambit declined, so-called classical approach. And it's always an interesting, this is becoming more common, Black finding ways to hunt down White's Queen Bishop as quickly as possible. And so Dane plays Bishop e5, probably hoping to induce some sort of weakness or compromise on Black's part in order to gain that bishop. For example, something that would be probably pretty dangerous would be taking knight takes here. Because after pawn takes, Black has to take time to figure out what he's going to do about this threat. So that would require weakening further with, say, g6 to give the knight a square. And so if it's interesting because there are a lot of subtleties that aren't that apparent in these so-called solid openings. For example, if Dane hadn't played rook c1 and this position had come up, then he'd love the opportunity to castle queenside and just toss everything at Matthew's king. But okay, that's not a position we have. This is the position we have. And Matthew decided f6 was the way he wanted to go, which at the end of the day, he will be able to take the dark square bishop away from white, but he's not going to be able to find a pawn to help cover that square anymore. So g6 is permanently weaker for now. And bishop e4 is a controversial decision. For one, he's moving that bishop a second time in the opening. For two, he's allowing white to consider a sacrifice on the king's side because the bishop is also no longer available to help defend the king. And Dane decides to go for it. Okay, so we now reach this position, and this is a pretty interesting gamble in a way. So Dane understands that if he hasn't calculated this completely accurately, he always has the bailout of a perpetual check draw. So he's not risking much from that standpoint. That said, he is trying to get the master rating, and he probably won't succeed in achieving that by accepting a draw with the white pieces against a player who's not as highly rated. So my guess is that Dane did calculate that he had a win here. So let's see how he goes about playing this. Grabs a pawn, checks again, bishop d3. So now he's threatening checkmate on h7. But he's also removing the bishop from the back rank, which might be important in a second. So Matthew defends the 7th rank with queen e7, and now he's covering g7 and h7. And then Dane plays king e2. And this is the point I was alluding to earlier, that now that this square and this square have been vacated, this guy can join the party on h1, threatening mate. So
I don't see the win yet, though. I'm a little scared.
Yeah, I'm not sure this is a win because queen g7 just manages to hold.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see how Dane is going to proceed. And it's possible, you know what?
I just can't believe that Dane has sacked his rook and he still has an hour and 24 minutes left. And I mean, he's close to master. Like, I would be like, okay, I'd be a little more nervous than normal, obviously. And then sacking my rook, wow, yeah, it's crazy.
Well, look at the clock on the other side of the board.
These guys are playing like madmen, yeah.
This is crazy. But okay, let's see how this goes. So queen h5, king g8, knight h4, all interesting stuff. And now f5. So Matthew's seems to be doing a pretty good job of covering up some of the important squares around his king. And now Dane has to act really quickly, because if Matthew can get his queenside pieces into the game, it in an effective way, it might be the end of Dane's attacking chances. So now we have this move and there, and this is one of the more difficult puzzles to solve in a chess game. So you have a material up, and in compensation, your opponent has his pieces around your king. And it's very common, and I know this from personal experience, that just at the moment when you think you've got all your pieces ready to defend against the attack, you slip up. Some nervousness creeps in, you miss a detail, and then the opponent crashes through. So from that standpoint, even though Dane is down significant material, the psychological initiative, I believe, is on Dane's side for now. So now queen g4 happens, trying to exchange off pieces, a wise decision. And now rook f7. Huh.
Yeah, I don't. This is. I don't think Dane can come back from this. He's just down a rook for two pawns. His knight's pinned and his bishop's blocked. All he can do is attack with the queen and rook, but I don't think that's going to get him anywhere.
And he can't play rook. I mean, he can, but it would be unwise to play rook h1 because this happens.
Yeah.
And he's losing a rook, another rook. So wow, this is so king e1. Okay, so he's breaking the pin, and he wants to launch his knight into the position, probably on e5.
King e1's weird though. I feel like you have. I don't know. At this point, I feel like you have to play. I don't want to be critical, but if you're if you don't like try at all, I feel like you have to play king d2 because you're down like a rook for two pawns, and now king e1 just blocks out your rook. So you have to at least try king d2, in my opinion.
I agree. I think king d2. I mean, there might be tactical reasons why king d2 is not working, but from a strategic standpoint, it seems like king d2 is more natural than king e1. Maybe there's a concern regarding.
Oh, maybe I see his point. Yeah, with king, he wants to play knight e5. But when you play king d2, then black checks you. So maybe he does have some merit to play king e1, yeah.
Yeah, that he wants to. Although let's go a bit deeper into this. So if this happens, part of the idea is this now. So even if he goes here, there's this.
Yeah.
And life is very uncomfortable. Actually, isn't that mate?
Yeah.
That's pretty much mate in one. So, okay. So yeah, so king e1, not allowing knight e4 to come with tempo. But can he shift the wood over there in enough time? Because one thing is, well, we'll see how the game goes. So queen h5, trying to exchange off queens, and also having a small threat of his own, trying to infiltrate into white's camp. And now knight g4. Yeah, this is going to be a tough one for Dane, if it's at all solvable.
Yeah, black just needs to, get the bishop out. Eventually that bishop will weave out itself, and the rook on a8 will come out, and then it should be over.
Oh, that's cute.
But doesn't that give up the knight?
It does give up the knight. It does give up the knight. And that's what I was going to say. It's cute, but is it effective? It seems like maybe his point is just he wants to be up an exchange rather than a full rook, if it means that he doesn't have to worry about the attack. And this is kind of what I was alluding to earlier about defending, and at some point with the tension, you might make a mistake that ruins your whole defense. And in this case, I think he saw this as a way to reduce the tension by giving back some material, which isn't necessarily a bad way to play in general. I don't know if it'll work in this specific situation.
Yeah, I don't know why you just don't go knight f6. This whole game is confusing me.
Yeah.
What's wrong with knight f6? I don't see the attack for white. I really don't.
Knight f6 just seems like it's working. It's keeping e4 under control. It's keeping g4 under control. But again, I think it was all about he couldn't deal with the continued tension of that queen being there. Is my guess. I'm not saying this because
that has to be the reason. It's just not a good reason.
Yeah. I think that one of the things that does seem more apparent is Nowadays we seem a lot better at active defense, but to make up for it, I mean, we as a general group, compared to say a generation ago, we seem a lot better at active defense than they were. But we also seem a lot worse at patient defense. Some might call it passive defense, but where you have to be willing to soak up pressure for a little bit longer before you can turn the tide. And we don't seem as good at that as our chess ancestors, so to speak. Anyway, here, Queen H6, this happens. So I wonder. So I've known Dane for many a year, and he was one of the more brutal members of our club up here, and he was the master of the swindle. And I'm wondering if, I mean, it's crazy to call this a swindle, but if Dane is able to escape with the draw here, which is not completely impossible, huh? Well, we'll see. We'll see what's going on. If you were playing the black pieces, what would your plan be?
Well, I think obviously the only break is obviously moving your A or B pawns for black. You have to push B, specifically B4 at some point if you want to win. But
Mm-hmm.
the more I look at it, I think this will end in a draw. I don't obviously white can't play for the win. Black's the only side who can even try to play for the win, and I don't think B4 will work. You need to double stack on the B file with your rooks and then time it right. And Dane would probably just like play King A2 or and Rook B1 and then try to stop.
Is
I
it
don't know.
possible to play it as a sack? Maybe. So if you
I
play
don't
B4
think
right now,
so.
okay, well, you can't play B4 right now. Say White plays Rook A2, for example. Is this possible? It's
I like it
possible, but
more
not.
when you double stack first.
Yeah, it's not possible immediately. So, but then the problem is, how do you, because of the strange position the bishop's in, if the rook on H leaves H7, then black always has to be concerned about a knight f5 with a discovered attack on the bishop on H5. So say if the rook were to go here, then this right away.
Yeah, no, that's a great point because what I'm thinking, the more I calculate, I think black not only needs to double stack obviously on the B file, but they need to move their bishop obviously away, like you pointed out first. They need to play bishop E8 and then rook B8 and rook B7, and then maybe B4 is actually kind of interesting. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and it'll take a lot of patience and care to achieve that. And um,
and I'm guessing what Dane wants when the bishop moves is G4, because if he does
yeah,
nothing, then then I kind of take back what I said earlier. But B4 actually does look pretty scary because once everything gets traded off, then black has the open file, and he obviously is up a rook, with quotation marks, whatever. So you don't want to let him open
yes.
that up. But yeah, I think if G4 is timed right, then maybe it is still kind of drawish.
So I'm thinking if I were black here, I think I would. Okay, so say we give white the same move. I'd probably consider playing King G7, and um, the idea is bring the bishop to G4 but don't let the knight into g6, and then bring. So the idea would be repositioning, kind of like with this, and here.
I like that. Yeah, I really like that.
And see if that's enough, a way to open up play on that flank without allowing white to get too much play on the king side. Because yeah, g4, if white can get g4 in, could be back in business. At least creating enough counterplay, which is what we'd like Dane to do if we were on Dane's. If we're playing the white pieces, we need to create some sort of play, because just sitting back and doing nothing is probably going to have a bad ending. But yeah, we'll see. We'll come back to this later. I wonder, going back, if this whole idea with in this position, if the idea of rook h6 is just premature.
I think so. Yeah. Well, if you want to win, yes.
Yes. Yeah. As I said, he did have the benefit that if he got to, after getting to this position, and this is kind of a sometimes difficult thing to do. You get to this position, and then you make the mental choice to proofread your calculations and make sure you actually got everything right. Because after this point, if the moment you play bishop d3 or anything else besides queen h6, the die is cast, right? It's now or never. You have to be winning, or you're going to lose. But it would have been very difficult psychologically to agree to the draw here. But I think if Dana had calculated and saw, okay, there is no forced win, which I didn't see one, and maybe that's something that we could look at later after the game, to see if there's a way for white to fine tune the attack. So, for example, is king d2 working here?
King d2 seems preferable, at least to what we found out later in the game. It got annoying with the pin, but yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, king d2 and bring the rook over immediately. Say here, check, here, and here.
Yeah, to be honest, this whole game doesn't make any sense to me. I'm kind of doubting myself because, and I've told people this, but like when I commentate, I lose a couple hundred elo. I don't know if you feel this way, okay, but like, you just, when you commentate, you're not as good as when you actually play, because I don't know, it's not your own game, whatever it is. But yes. I still trust myself when I say that. No offense, but Dane and Matthew are playing not their normal level game.
It seems like it's as I've seen described it. Yeah, after this, I'm not even sure how white gets any further attacking chances. This is just. Oh, you know what? Maybe after here, it's still not working though. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe as I said, we'll come back to this later, and see what's going on board one. Have an interesting fight here between William Murphy and Jordan Tim. Okay, well, at least Jordan didn't play b5 here.
Yeah.
Oh no, the Queen's Gambit declined. Only this time an exchange version. And Jordan goes for a Tartakova type setup. And I believe we're still kind of in book. Yeah or no? You're a
Yeah,
Tartakova player, right?
yeah, this
So
looks, yeah.
and then, once again we see the hunt for the for the Queen's Bishop, the Dark Sword Bishop by Black, and here again we see White fishing for a weakness. And now this forces H3 forces Black's hand if he wants to get the bishop. And now 95, and okay. Um, I suppose this is also a possibility, although in some way that might you'd have to weigh the decision very carefully.
Yeah, because now to your point again, yeah, G6 was forced.
Yeah. But then the question for White is he weakening himself so much, and will he be able to deal with this type of business, opening that up? And so it takes careful judgment to decide on that path. I think knight takes e5 is a bit more conservative. Okay. Black has weakened g6, so f6 by Black isn't going to be as desirable. And so 95 has its own good points. And now White is taking his other knight to the king side. And
Yeah,
actually, at this point, yeah.
I like this decision from William. Knight
Mm-hmm.
take instead of takes e5, just because.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't think the pawn structure was a huge advantage there. Maybe you had a little bit of space technically, but that's about the only advantage I could see with taking with the e pawn. And then with this, I just feel like you have better pieces, and you can just kind of play for long term small advantage.
Yes. This is the kind of position where, I mean, if I'm playing the Black pieces, I much prefer having to do with the position after d takes e5 than after knight takes e5. Because after knight takes e5, it's just a thankless position for Black, at least at the moment. White's pieces are all better. He has no major weaknesses, no compromise, and under normal circumstances, uh, Black can expect to suffer for a while. And so yeah, I think 95 just seems like a more pleasant type position. And so he supports the post up with a 4, and g6 happens, which, by the way, means that William was able to achieve Jordan playing g6 without weakening his king further. So in the other position, we had g4 being played, which we always need to remind ourselves that pawns don't go backwards. So now he's induced, excuse me, the weakness with g6 without having to compromise his own king safety too much. I mean, f4 does weaken a little bit, but it's going to be hard for Black to get to e3, for example. I don't know. I might have preferred queen f3 to queen e2. Although it might be queen e2 is much more prophylactic against what Black plays, which is c5. And now the queen can support the bishop's intrusion to b5, and the position is seeming even less enjoyable for Black. Wowee. Okay, so Jordan exchanges in the center, giving his pieces a bit more space to roam. And now 94 is happening, which is common in these Queen's Gambit type positions. Black hopes to exchange a couple of pieces. And he changes the pawn structure too. Now the question will be, is the pawn that's left on e4 a strength or a weakness? And only time will tell. So things have been changing rather rapidly here. d4. So bishop f5 is pretty provocative, because Gordon must have known that g4 was the likely result, but he probably wants that to happen because g4 also loosens the covering over White's king. So then he returns to e6, which is probably where he wanted to go in the first place, but he's got g4 in. And now the question is going to be, after the exchange a for e pawn, whose pawns are more dangerous and whose kings are more danger? And for now, it seems as if Jordan's in a lot of danger.
Yeah. Well, he was playing a great game, putting Jordan under a lot of pressure. I kind of, yeah, from the get-go, I kind of, and we don't have to look at this now, but I kind of thought William might have played the middle game a little dubiously. At least my gut instinct was to kind of attack on the king side sooner, but he played like the bishop b5 stuff, and then they just had like mass liquidation. But besides that, he's playing a good game and has a favorable endgame.
Yeah, I don't know. And the great thing is his pieces are facing the black king as well, so that he could combine the advance of the soon to be passed pawn with threats against black's king. So yeah, I'm not sure. It'll be interesting to see how this one goes. The time situation is interesting too, in that neither of them are really in time trouble, so they have enough time to think out this position, which is very good because this is going to get complicated soon. All right. Well, we have a result on board 3 between Robert Donahue and Connor Weatherly, who I guess was Connor gone for the last 2 months?
Yeah, I thought he was back maybe last month, but yeah, the month before.
The month before. Okay. So we have a King's Gambit, and for those who don't want to take the King's Gambit, Bishop c5, I believe is the most well. Bishop c5 and Bishop c5 is one way to decline the gambit, and I think d5 is the other popular way to decline the gambit, the Falkbeer counter gambit.
Yeah, Connor actually did play. You're right. He didn't play last month. He played in October, but he didn't play in November.
Oh, okay. So,
is this some sort of like debauched Evans Gambit or what?
So I'm laughing because this reminds me of an approach Robert took in one of the games last month, where he gives up a pawn on b4, kind of like, kind of Evans Gambit-like, but it wasn't Evans Gambit. And it wasn't clear to us while we were commentating what the goal was, except for maybe to gain some time by pushing the bishop off of the a7 g1 diagonal. And in this case, it seems as if it was to gain the time to put the knight on d5 with tempo, so that the difference between this and here is that he's got his knight on d5, but he's missing a pawn, and he doesn't think the pawn's that important.
But then he plays bishop d3. Well, we're not playing d4 and c3 and d4 anymore.
Yeah, I do not understand what's going on here. I can't find the justification for these moves. So now the king is stuck in the center with little hope of getting out of there anytime soon. And then Robert I think is trying to start an attack with the two knights and maybe the rook behind it, but his king's area is not necessarily safe, so I don't know that this has good chances of success. Oh, the queen could come into g4, h5 after knight takes f6. Maybe that's his idea, but
yeah. And if knight takes d5, he was trying to take, and then he's threatening the knight on c6, and then the pawn on h7.
yes, okay. So there's some tactics here. So this could actually become a really, really instructive game from Connor in how to deal with what I consider a premature attack. So we get here, and Connor plays pawn takes pawn, which puts a temporary obstruction on the f file, but more importantly, opens up the e5 square that maybe his knight can jump over to help on the king side. Robert plays e5 himself, and this is, I think, a smart move, this one. Get another piece involved in the game. And now you can actually play d takes e5, where oh, am I missed? Wait a second, this is even better than I thought, because at the moment, so knight takes f6 is forced, queen takes f6, bishop h7, king f8. How is this working? Or maybe it doesn't make any difference. Oh, there's queen there. Sneaky
Yeah.
butter.
I mean, we still have rook e5 and rook g5, but
Oh yeah, that's true. Here, king somewhere. Here, so that any discovery is responded to by queen h5. Sorry, rook takes h5, and now bishop g5, bishop g4 will be curtains. So okay, so but I don't think king f8 is bad. Oh, Robert, what is this? King f2, g5. So yeah, I guess this is where we start talking about sticking a fork in Robert's position. What? Okay, I'm not seeing things. E4. That's cruel and unusual punishment. And just for completeness, I should mention that that queen takes e4 will probably be responded to by the family fork with knight g3.
It's actually made after queen h3.
Oh, no, you take the queen in these positions, but okay.
Are you playing too much online chess? Okay.
Yes. Yes, always take the queen. Um, so, all right, well, that was, yeah. Robert played some, there were interesting ideas, but it just turns out that he didn't have enough firepower. And um, and Connor, I think, marshaled the defense pretty well. Playing active defense, looking at what his threats were, dealing with them with active moves like rook e8, and not shying from the tactics. So let's see what's going on in Nate's game against Jacob Picus. So Jacob starts off with his preferred flank approach to the chess openings. And now we're in a Benoni type position. And abracadabra, we've transposed to the fianchetto variation versus the modern Benoni. Now, b5 is not necessary right away, I don't think. I think knight c4 is doable before playing a5. But, okay, a5 is not bad. I think knight c4 is more accurate. So you're putting pressure on d6 immediately. And,
yeah.
Maybe he has to respond with this. Or if he has to respond with this, then pretty much any self-respecting Benoni player would be pretty much scandalized by having to play that way. But
yeah, and what I like most about that move, knight c4, is that you stop knight e5, which
yes,
black plays like pretty much every single time they can. So I think we prefer for us to be able to have the option of taking, because if they have to play rook takes e5, I mean, their rook's not great there. Maybe we can kick it. If they take with the pawn, then we have a pass pawn. So yeah, I like knight c4.
Yeah, I think knight c4 probably would work. Because now black is getting... So, okay, black is still not out of the woods, but he's not unhappy to get his knight there unchallenged. And now the knight on d2 has to figure out how it's going to get into the game. And I suppose one path is knight b3, knight a5 might be a path to get in there. The reasoning being, we want to maintain our d5 pawn, and so we need to get the knight developed in a way that doesn't prevent that. And in some positions, if we could avoid playing e4 till necessary, you will, because I mean e4 gains some space, but also provides a target for black. And so, Nath, wait a second, this is weird. All through this, up to this point, I assumed it was Nate playing black and Jacob playing white.
Oh,
because of the start of the game. I guess saw G3 and assumed it was Jacob playing white, except for like I think Jacob usually plays G3 and then C4 as his second move. So this is a bit of a role reversal, I suppose, in a way. Interesting. So white tested black's temperature for a couple of moves, and then pulls his rook over to the king side to try and generate some play there.
I like that. My gut tells me that's a good try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like already black might have some problems to deal with, including bishop g5, which is made stronger since h6 is not a thing. And yeah, already white can see if he can apply the age-old dictum of hitting him and winning him. And so Jacob tries to create some confusion with a4, pushing the knight back.
Yeah, this is a good spot to be silent. Those last two moves are a little odd.
Oh, let's see what's going on here. So he breaks the pin. And maybe Nathan doesn't want knight h5 to happen. Kind of strange. I'm not sure. Yeah, that might be his goal. And he might be looking to play queen f5 at some point. And if maybe Jacob's plan is if bishop h3, then he goes queen b7. And is putting as much pressure as he can on the d5 square. Not clear. But okay, let's see. a3. So forcing the activation of his rook. So this is probably one of the more efficient ways to develop your rook in the game. But the rook has to beat a hasty retreat after queen c1. So it's still unclear what's going on here. And now Jacob had to put himself back under the pin. So knight e4 looks like it would cause quite a bit of heartburn, at the very least, forcing a retreat, or maybe not, because Jacob finds bishop f5. That said, I don't think that should be enough. Oh, g4 isn't working immediately, because that was my thought, is maybe he plays g4, but then that might be answered with this, and now here. But if that were to happen, yeah, I don't see this working out for white. So maybe bishop f5 is holding, and that might explain.
Yeah, you're winning a piece on one or the other here because you take on f6 and then you play either e4 or g4, but e4 is more precise.
Yeah, so say knight takes. Oh, and g5 isn't working because you have rook takes f5. So where exactly did the blunder happen? I guess
Well,
we're both so mesmerized. Yeah?
first of all, maybe we should look at the knight retreat.
Yeah.
Black. It's still a bad position, but instead of bishop f5, yeah.
Yeah, this seems like it might have more going for it.
I mean, you're still running into knight b5, and then you're threatening
Hmm.
to take on d6. And if they
Oh
play
yeah.
a6,
Oh,
trying to
actually,
defend,
95 is actually pretty wicked because after knight d5, this is attacked, this is attacked. If you try to defend this with here, then you lose an exchange that way.
yeah. So it really did fall apart before.
Yeah. So at this point, it's already. I think once he brought the queen back to e7, it was a done deal. And now the wisdom of bishop f3 is making sense, keeping the knight from getting to h5. Question is, did he have a move at some point? I guess not, because he could always play. If he plays h6, he loses a pawn or two
And
pieces for the rook.
this
Yep,
wouldn't be ideal for sure, but it'd be better than the game. Playing like rook
true.
takes c3, queen takes c3, and knight d4, d5, and then hitting the
What
queen
is
with
this?
the bishop and the knight. I mean, it's obviously still bad for white, but that's at least one way where you could have got a better position than you did in the game.
I mean, for black, you mean?
Yeah, for black, back here
Mhm.
on move 23, just taking on c3 instead of retreating the rook. Like, it's still obviously bad, but
Oh, here. Okay, so rook
yeah,
c3, queen c3, and knight d5. Um,
it's bad, but it's better than the game
it's
at least.
it's better than the game for sure. In fact, white might have to be concerned about some counterplay. So black has a passed pawn, so that's something that's useful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think rook c3 would have definitely been a better spot than the retreat. Because yeah, at this point, oh, okay, no, this is, let me go to the live game. Oh, this actually did happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so poor Jacob is likely going down here. Um, and it doesn't seem as if she's getting any counterplay for the material either. All right, we'll go to Noah Stewart versus John Heyer. Grand Prix, just like that. I suspect that for Sicilian players, falling into this might be on the same level as the queen lost line in the French advance. Oh no, my pawn! Say hello. It just feels like spiritually falling for either of these traps will make you question your reason for living, or at least remaining a chess player. Um, this here, bishop g4, and okay, this is maybe, I mean, to be more objective here, I think um, bishop g4 is a reminder of why it's important to do either of two things: either have a firm grasp of your opening, or if you're just playing on spec, then it's your responsibility to calculate every move. to make sure you're not falling for traps. Assuming you get into a position that you don't know ahead of time, you don't have any opening knowledge of, you should be even more vigilant about potential traps they could fall into. And so this is a classic one. Bishop takes f7. The idea being that the bishop on g4 is underprotected, and so after king takes knight there, now you win the bishop, and you are a pawn up if you're the commander of the white pieces. And this is where the books will talk about the rest being a matter of technique, although I wouldn't say it's that simple. White still has to do some good work, because one pawn often isn't enough if the opponent has enough counterplay. I like Noah's approach here. He's won a pawn, but he's not trying to curl into a ball, hoping that the pawn will win for itself in the endgame. Instead, he's actually activating his position maximally by playing c3 to open up the center. Because besides being a pawn up, he's actually, so on the surface it may not look that way, but he's actually better developed than black, and he's creating a situation where the safest part of the board for the black king at the moment might even be in the center, because the f file is going to open, the c file is going to open. So where is he going to castle to? Unless he castles right away. And instead, John captures on c3 first, and then plays king d8. So I guess John must have come to the same conclusion that regarding what side of the board his king can go to safely.
I personally still would have castled kingside, but
I would have castled kingside myself because that has to be better than the king on d8, which is also keeping the rooks from communicating. Oh, John misses that he is losing 2 pieces for the rook. And now the knight's going to come to d5 and be a superhero. And that's besides the fact that these guys will probably be falling fairly quickly. Yeah, that was not a great start to the game by John, and then Noah took care of things efficiently after that. I think it's important to also point out that after playing the c3 move, Noah still focused on getting his pieces as active as possible. And by active, not just developing them, but also developing them with purpose, using each move to either attack a black unit or to threaten to attack a black unit. So, all right, well, that was a quick one. It didn't meet the criteria for a miniature, though. So, shame on Noah. I'm just kidding. No, so let's see what happens. Oh, Eddie. It seems like Eddie has missed a bit of playing time recently. I don't see him playing. Although he played last month, right? So, in the Thursday nighter, here we have the delayed Steinitz, I think. So both players are playing somewhat standard moves in these kind of positions. White might be slightly better on account of extra space at the center, and his knight on c6 is putting pressure on d4, but otherwise isn't in the most active position. And Another point in White's advantage is his bishop hasn't been chased away from the G8 diagonal, which Norman decides to deal with right away with knight a5. And maybe he intends to play c5 as a follow-up if White plays bishop c2. But Eddie decides to go full steam ahead with knight h5, not minding the loss of the light square bishop, because he's assessed that after recapturing, he now has immediate pressure against Norman's a pawn, and his rook is developed already on the a file. So the d5 happens, clogging up the center, increasing his space advantage in the center and queenside. And interestingly, it also means that for an endgame, his pawns in the center are on the correct color squares for his bishop.
Yeah, that's a good observation.
So here, and this is what's so frustrating. Part of the reason why one of the many nicknames for the Spanish opening is the Spanish torture is Black felt at this point back here, okay, I forced that one knight to go back, and now I'm going to force this other knight to go back, and now life is better. And then White says, oh yeah, that was only the first wave of attack. Now I'm going to start the next wave and see if we can soften you up further. And now f5 is just incredibly weak, and it's going to be difficult to engineer. So one of the knights will probably get to f5, and it's going to be difficult for Black to get his knight into f4. It'll probably take 1, 2, 3, 4, and during that time, it's unlikely that White will just be sitting back watching. He'll probably play h4, king g2, rook h1, and just go after Black's king. So Norman decides to defend f7, probably with a view to getting the knight to g8, maybe hope to get f5 in or f6. But Eddie comes in with that, and with king g2, it's somewhat obvious he's planning to play h4 and rook h1 in some order.
Yeah, we have Eddie in the chat, and he's saying, I think Norm was fine until he played g5. And I kind of agree. G5 just really weakening move.
G5 was a gift. I mean, typically, White is wanting to play h4 and then try and decide on g5 or h5, but he has to do it with good preparation, because he played the wrong way, and then Black's able to close position down on the king side in a advantageous way. I don't know that that's possible here, just because if White is able to get h5 in and then g5 happens, then he has advantages of the f5 square being weak, but he also has a disadvantage that it's not clear how he breaks through unless he can engineer a nice sack. So by volunteering to play g5 without forcing h4, yeah, Norman's position is just I think the scientific term is yucky. So yeah, after this, Eddie starts doing Eddie things. Now, I suppose it's as good as anything, because you want to get the queen to help out the defense, probably. But now Eddie can open up. He half opens up the F file, but more importantly, half opens the H file, and it's going to be hard for Norman to hold everything together. For example, at the moment, the G5 square is under attack, and there's doesn't seem to be a good way to defend it because the king can't get to G6. And so, for example, if you were to play something like this, then bishop G5 wins the whole house because of the pin on the H file. So then Norman tries to beg off with queen G6, but that leaves this guy hanging. And so, and it's funny how quickly, the pawn structure, the black pawn structure is strong until it's not. And after the base of the pawn structure of the pawn chain on D6 is gone, then yeah, black is going to be feeling some hurt. And on top of everything, we now have wonderful knight versus demoralized bishop. and actually the tactics also work in Eddie's favor. So this is going to be tough. I don't even know if it can be saved at this point, but after these moves, and now the A pawn is going to be lost.
What I like about this game is it's a good example of strategical concepts leading to tactical concepts.
Yes.
Because once Eddie secured the F5 square, which is a strategical concept having to deal with squares and finding the best squares for your pieces, that led to tactics just kind of leaping out in the position where, ooh, now I have these ideas to play bishop takes G5. Now the H file is open. Now I'm the one putting all the pressure. So it's just kind of a good example of that concept.
For sure. Yes, it's actually an interesting observation too, that occupying the weak square in and of itself isn't the big thing. It's that the piece that's occupying that weak square is now putting pressure within the enemy territory. So this knight is making black think about this and this and this, and then you add the pressure by opening the H file, and then to that list, now this is accessible. And all because this guy is here and difficult to remove. Well, I guess you could sacrifice the exchange. But it's also important to note that white has to play with energy, because if he dilly-dallies, then maybe black might have time to play knight e7 and exchange that knight off. But queen h3 automatically does a threat to the g5 pawn, so black has to respond to that. And then after queen d8, now you add an extra threat to the h pawn, which means that the knight on g8 is trapped to a life of defending the h pawn under normal circumstances. So you don't have to worry about knight e7 attacking knight on f5. And so the queen comes in to give extra protection to the h pawn. And now queen h5 puts the threat to the g pawn. Every move is putting black under more and more pressure. And in as much as we're still carbon-based life forms, we're usually going to crack at some point. And that's what happened here. So a very nice game by Eddie.
I would say one last comment on this game from me. I would say what I also really like about this game is Eddie's time management. Like, I remember looking down earlier during this game, and he still had like an hour and 20 minutes or whatever it was. Like, and to the point we were making, Norm didn't really blunder. I mean, you can't call it a blunder, but Norm didn't really make a big mistake until G5,
Yes.
and that was move 21. So Eddie was kind of having to um, deal with a strategical kind of slugfest there in the opening and early middle game, but he played quickly and yeah, just a nice all around game.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very, very pleasant to watch. Let's see. Let's see these other games that have completed and then go back up to the top boards. So we've got Eric Galan versus Roger Hale, and Eric starts as he tends to do, c4 and g3, and so it's with openings like the English, it seems like you can get away with this kind of thing, but in general, I think some of the principles, especially in English, still apply. You don't want to move a pawn or a piece more than once in the opening unless you have to. And so Roger converts this to a Queen's Gambit declined type defense, except for now he's a tempo down. And that tempo might be important soon enough. And yeah, becomes important right here. So and all of a sudden Roger's a pawn down with no real compensation for the pawn. It is. I think it is instructive to see how Eric's going about prosecuting the game after winning the material. So he did, as we noticed in a previous game, he didn't just sit on his laurels and feel, okay, the game will play itself. He was actually looking for active plans, continuing to put pressure on Black's position, creating a small threat here or there when he can. And things are getting pretty tight. The knight doesn't have too many great moves, but okay. At least knight f8 or something, I think is still okay. I mean, his position is really bad, Rogers is, but this just gives up the piece for nothing. And after that, Eric isn't playing with his food. And Roger resigns, which he's already threatening queen takes x6 in this position. And there's a piece up. So there's queen h6, and there's rook d6. Yeah. So okay, the result of the game wasn't decided by the opening, but the opening already put Roger under pressure, and then compounding that by opening up the center with dc4 when it's already behind in development. It's not a typical Queen's Gambit accepted position, because often in these sort of positions, this guy isn't already on g2, and so even after Queen a4, you don't have to do it with 95 being as strong as it was in the game. So okay, well that was that game. I don't know if this is an actual game between Mitch and no, this is, or maybe it is. It just looks familiar.
Oh yeah, this is a new game.
Okay. All right, I guess we'll run down these two. Okay, so there's Mitch Ross and Stephen Juntanen, and then there's Jules Billmeyer versus Jeremy Kyler, and then we'll return to the top. So let's go here. So there was a time many moons ago where Bishop D2 was considered a beginner's approach against the Nimzo Indian. It's too unsophisticated, and we understand he's trying to keep Black from doubling his pawns, but there's nothing there. And then in the last, I don't know, 5 years, quite a few very strong players have been playing this Bishop D2. So, of course, they're often looking to transpose to some other system like Rubinstein variation against the Nimzo, which this kind of becomes. And in this version, I think Black is doing well. I think Mitch lost track of the tactics here. So, which is not difficult to do when you have this tension in the center to keep everything to keep everything straight and not end up losing something or missing something. So I think at this point, White needed to consider either DC5 or CD5, do something to deal with that tension there. Instead, by castling, he just gave up a pawn. Oh, there's still. How do we jump to that? Okay, here we go. So there. And so Black's a pawn up, and White isn't really ahead of development either. Although, okay, he's getting a tempo here, a tempo there against the queen. And I guess he does have some compensation. He has pretty active pieces, and Black's extra pawn isn't being felt yet. So, oh wow, that's interesting.
I don't know why. Maybe he could have just played b5. I was looking at b5, seemed kind of nice.
Yeah, this position, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. This I thought was much more painful for Black to deal with because he's losing a piece or something, or potentially, yeah. Because where's the bishop going to?
You probably have to go to e8.
And if you go to e8, now knight d5 is still killer.
Yeah.
So
man, if he would have found that, he would have been not even right back in the game. He would have been winning.
He'd be winning, completely winning. Yeah. Now, okay, let's take a look. Oh, but knight takes c7 is check. So even desperados like that don't work because you just take that and then take this. So yeah, this was impatience, maybe. I don't know. Because b5 is just killer. There is absolutely.
And unfortunately, this game was not one of the DG8 DGT boards, so we don't know how long he spent on it.
Yeah. But yes, I guess somebody will let Mitch know what he missed there at some moment. Because yeah, the way he went with this, I think White still has compensation, but it's nowhere near as good as if he had to take it. What in the? Excuse me. What is that about?
I don't know. Unexplainable.
Okay, I'm confused.
You know, I think Nate inputted the move wrong. We'll blame
Yeah,
it on Nate.
that has to be the explanation because
And yeah, because yeah, and age 6, yeah. Okay. Definitely this didn't happen in the game.
no, I mean the rest of this might have happened, but the move order might have been different.
Yes, the move order was different. We'll eventually get back to the correct position.
Yeah. Okay. So somehow or the other, a piece was lost. I guess Nate is entering other games too. All right, let's go back to the top and see. Oh wow, the top two boards are still playing. Um, let's see what's going on in Dane's game. If he's what is going on? How did we get to this position? Let's go back because we were discussing if there are ways for Black to break through. And so we get here, here, there, and there. Okay. So now this is the position. And yeah, I think we left at this moment trying to figure out if Black could open up the position on the queen side. And so Dane plays rook b1, which actually takes some of the pressure off Black. Because now Black can take the time to make his bishop great again, maybe. So, but Matthew plays a5, sorry, a4.
Wouldn't that have been an opportune time though to play finally play rook b7?
That's what I'm thinking. I don't think I understand why he didn't go for rook b7 right away. Because the earlier concern is no longer there, right?
Yeah.
And now you just blast through with b4 and open up at least one line. Oh. So this comes back to what we were discussing earlier regarding our lessened ability to play passive defense. Because so Dane plays c4 to open up the position, create threats because he wants to play actively, which I think is admirable. But it also means that he's helped Black in a way because Black wants to open up the position on the queen side. And if his tactics here aren't working, then which king f7. Okay, so there must be something we're missing here. Because I thought the whole idea was so as to get this in.
Yeah, and I initially thought, oh, okay, maybe they can just take c4 and then rook takes b8 and then takes f5. But yeah, there's that intermezzo. So why didn't he do this?
So let's see. Let's go back. So here and then there. Because I was actually kind of concerned for Black, thinking that, oh, well, Dane's probably gotten a nice swindle after, say, something like this, and maybe this is working.
I think maybe it gets too risky. So after king f7, knight takes f5. Well, even that, I was thinking, yeah, just like move but then the H file's open, and that's what I think Dane might have been concerned about. But
oh, the H file's open, and he potentially could have to deal with bc4.
and his rook is hanging on b1.
And his rook is that's the key. That's the key. They can't. So if he plays rook here, although still this is not. This deals with the immediate threat, right?
Yeah, but then like let's say rook b h8. I mean, we won a pawn, but no, he probably would have gone for this because at least we have g4 f5, and that's coming quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this can't. Well, you have to move the bishop first, but no, that can't be it.
So I don't know if this is. Unless maybe the idea is, well, yeah, we already looked at that. That if he plays knight here, and we go here, he already has this intermezzo before capturing. So, yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe Dane will explain later. What's the time situation? So he spent 3 minutes. 3 minutes on this.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know why he didn't take on f5.
Oh, and now Matthew wants to be tricky. So if there's an attempt to take on f5, then he skewers with bishop d3. And so Dane decides to exchange off the bishop and figures he can recuperate the pawn on e4. But now black is able to open up the b file and get b3 in. So things are not looking good for Dane at the moment. But he does have a pass pawn. His knight is on the rim, but it's still not terribly dim. And it looks like Matthew is fixing to give back the exchange in order to muscle through with his passed b pawn or something. So the position is actually a bit double-edged now, especially after that last move. Yeah, I don't know. Again, is there could he have played more patiently, say with rook here, to keep Dane's king out? I mean, it's still difficult to see how he makes progress, but he's not losing, or at least he has very little chances of losing.
Yeah, or even like bring, like you said, rook b8 and then like king e7 and king f6, and then maybe you sack.
Exactly. But yeah, he goes for this, and haven't seen Dane pull these sort of miracles out of the hat before. I'm feeling a bit unsafe for Matthew's chances of escaping a swindle, but Matthew seems to be holding his own. Wowee. This game is not over.
I wonder if Dane is somehow trying to win this now.
Oh, for sure. No, there is no doubt in my mind that Dane is looking for a way to win this position.
I don't think he will, but I commend him for trying.
Yeah, for sure. No, this is pretty interesting. I think if I had to guess, I think this is probably, if both players play well, I think this is drawn, but White will probably have to give up his a pawn in order to snatch the d pawn, sorry, the e pawn on e2, and then the question will be who handles the DC versus CE pawn and rook ending better. Wow, this is still quite the fight. So this is what's going on between William and Jordan, and we reached an ending, which looks kind of drawish, but it could still go. I mean, there's still room for blunders, especially when William is down to his last 5 minutes. Let's see how we got here. So I think we left at this moment.
Yep. Ooh.
Oh, okay.
Bishop e3 is a nice find. And classic Jordan.
Yes. That's wild. So I think. Oh, and there's no. Because otherwise, even if he does a check and something like this, well, actually, let's take a look. If he plays queen check, where's the king going?
G7.
King goes to G7. Then we have F6. And then king goes here, maybe? Oh,
Yeah,
no, that's.
Well, this might actually be good for black.
Yeah, I'm thinking Black's king is actually going to be a very powerful piece. So
And if king h7, I was looking at bishop g6. If king h7 after f6 king h7, we might have bishop g6.
Well, that's why I didn't go to h7. That's why I went to
Okay,
h6.
yeah, that you were concerned about that too. Yeah, I wasn't sure,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that's why I was looking at that. But it just so happens there's no. Oh, duh. The queen can check. Oh, the queen can't check from c1 because the other queen is on e1. So it would seem to me that White's attack might have come to a dead end. Yeah, bishop b3, maybe queen takes is the best move. But then after that, it looks as if the game's turned around, and all of a sudden, Jordan's kind of in the driver's seat, being a pawn up. Or not. Or, well, yeah, he's still a pawn up. Um, oh, I still don't. That's what happened. So Jordan was faced with a reflectual if he plays anything else, I guess. Right? So the only other moves would be king here, whereupon he can respond with this. And he just keeps on checking in a way that this guy's still under surveillance. And if he goes king here instead, then the same idea, king there, queen there check, and king anywhere. And then you just make sure you stay along this diagonal. So because of that, and to hopefully maintain some winning chances, Jordan decides to give up the A pawn in that way, and then come back to defend the B pawn. So this is still a fight. Hmm. My guess is based on time. Well, based on the position, it should. White has decent drawing chances, I think. I mean, black has winning chances as well, but with a time situation, it's very possible that a pawn drops and then they exchange this for this, and black wins this guy, and the king is able to somehow scoot over to help defend against this guy. Just superficial view of the ending. What do you think, Michael?
Yeah, I would think a draw here. If the queens get traded, yeah, you scoop up the pawns, and the white king is back in plenty of time, so should be a draw.
So, okay, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. Any other game? Oh, there's John Baker. Haven't seen his name in a while. John Baker versus Daryl Bimberg. Yikes! That's another pawn lost.
Daryl's fighting back.
Yeah.
Ah, still on a pawn, but
At least he's got some life in him yet. Oh, that forces exchange of queens, and now, although it's not trivial, I mean, it should be winning, but White has to show some skill. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Rook f5 wins a pawn right away. Maybe. Yeah, it does, because if he tries for this, they can play here, and if he goes here, have that, and there, and check, and then come back and win this guy. So at that moment, John didn't have to play g4. Could have just played rook f5 immediately. And now he plays rook f5. I guess better late than never. Okay. So yeah, Daryl made a mistake in the opening, which allowed the loss of a pawn. And that was way back here. And then it just turns out that 1, 2 are attacking, 1, 2 are defending. So you remove the guard, and now you have 1, 2 attacking, and only 1 defending. And unlike a similar position in the Ruy Lopez Spanish, the e4 pawn is protected here, so that the usual black counterattack against e4 isn't working for him. Sorry, so this happened, and then knight g4. And just as an aside, I thought maybe playing bishop g5 first might have had some small advantage in terms of reducing black's counterplay by either inducing the bishop to allow itself to be exchanged or forcing the queen to move to d7 or play. So the candidate moves would be here or here. I'm sorry. Or here. All right. Oh, I can't keep things straight. Or here. And in all of those cases, white has gained a development tempo. At this moment, he could decide to capture. Well, it's not clear. Maybe this is not as good for white as I thought it might be, compared to what obtained in the actual game with this. So in this position, this queen would be here, the bishop would be here, and then would be castling. So it's not clear who benefits from that. But yeah, after this, they're both developing, and it was admirable seeing how Daryl fought back. Again, the key being finding active moves, like bishop a4, and I don't think this was intended, but it turned out that because John was being a little bit fancy by overworking his rook, it now allowed this tactic to be a thing. Yeah, if John returns with that, although this is okay, actually it's still working, because if Daryl tries this, you create luft, and then you don't mind that you're losing a rook because you still have the threat of checkmate going on.
Well, yeah, we just have rook f1 right away.
Huh?
We just have rook f1 right away after bishop e5.
Oh yeah. That was why you had to play rook. Exactly. That's why I had to play rook f1. So that means
Yeah.
maybe he planned all this to begin with. Now that I think about it.
Maybe you tricked him into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Here I'm pontificating about garbage. Okay. So yeah. That meant it was a clever trap rather than a mistake. But then g5 now spoils some of his work by keeping things too loose. And after this, it's kind of, I don't know if it's possible to defend this one anymore. But it's still worthwhile continuing to fight, because you never know. Your opponent isn't guaranteed to play faultless chess. So let's see, last month's open section winner, how he managed today. Let's see. So an attempt at a Catalan, which then becomes a Tarrasch.
Everyone's trying to win that bishop today.
Yeah, I know, right? Must feel like the most hunted thing on the planet, or at least on the chessboard.
Ooh.
Boom.
The double pawns aren't so bad though.
No, not really. Although I think no, I much I much prefer White's position here. No. Why knight c5? Why knight b3? What's the idea? I'm not getting that. I mean, I think queen. I like queen here.
Yeah.
And then among other things, after knight takes e6, then black has to reckon with bishop h3. So knight b3, I'm not so sure, unless he has some other attacking plan here.
Yeah, I wouldn't have let, like you said, I wouldn't have let Black make some trades here, but
Yeah, this is beginning to go wrong for Brendan. Very wrong for Brendan.
now Black
Try
has the
gets,
blockade.
yeah, black has the blockade. Black's pieces are better, and he gets to play d4. So now he doesn't even have to worry about the weak IQP, and his pieces are active and white's aren't. And now he has a pass pawn.
Yeah, e4. I don't like e4.
And yeah, this is pretty much all over. I guess there's still some fighting to be done here.
Whoa.
I'm not sure what just happened there.
Yeah, wait, wasn't there rook c1 and bishop h3?
Yeah, that's what I'm not sure what just happened here. Why there? Yeah, rook here, check. And of course, if rook here, then you capture. So that's probably not happening. But if you go here, now there's bishop h3, and you don't have to worry about discovered attack on the rook and attacking this because black responds with that. And it's a checkmate. So yeah, king g7 was bad on two levels. For one, it doesn't look at the offense, and it doesn't really attend to the defense, really, because the d3 pawn is hanging at this moment. And that's the last part that's not good, is white's able to consolidate. But okay, it's still a fight. I guess he didn't want to deal with this. Oh, there's this. Aye.
I wonder if you have perpetual check though.
Let's see. So here, and let's see, where's he going to avoid?
I don't want to be lazy and not calculate, but I want to be lazy and not calculate. I mean, there has to be a perpetual here.
Let's see. So say here,
Queen e4.
queen e4, and say, yeah, there probably is a perpetual here. I can't seem to find a way to tap dance out of this.
Yeah, so maybe just leaving the queen on d3, protecting the pawn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. Yeah, that's what I would have done.
Yeah. he probably didn't assess or didn't give the perpetual enough credence there. Because yeah, now it's just going to be very difficult. Hmm. Black is being as careful as possible. Make sure they don't give white anything. And now queen c1 is probably getting the job done. Yeah. Oh, that was a back and forth game, and I think both players played well at different times. It seems like Brendan started off well. Going back when you have the opponent under pressure, you need to think very carefully before taking your foot off the gas, and that's what it seemed like after knight b3. Maxwell just started playing more energetically than Brendan, and that probably helped lead to the final result.
And the cool thing about this endgame though is it's like a Zugzwang. It's after Queen G1.
And, I mean, in this position
here? Yeah, Queen G1 and Black maybe plays King F6 or something. Like, what does White do? Okay, F5 always loses on the spot. Yeah, I mean, it's not quite over, is it?
Oh, yeah, it's not quite over, but
I mean, Black can just run the king in eventually, but he didn't have to resign quite yet. Is my point.
True. Yeah, this is oh, you know what he could do? I think it is kind of getting close over. So he goes there, and then he probably has to come back here. And now, if we play h4, sorry, f4. If he plays this, now we have this, and if he plays here, now we have this, and that finishes all resistance. So yeah, I think it is a 6-1.
Nice idea. Yeah, nice idea. Just getting the bishop. Yeah.
So yeah, that's actually a
but that's a little tricky to find. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So, all right. Yeah, the top two games are still going on. These are, unless this is the position they had a while ago. Is this already done and they just haven't? Because I can't believe that Jordan spent the last 10 minutes doing nothing. Because he had like 22 minutes when he left, I thought. Or 30 minutes when they got to this position.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, that'd be like 25 or something, yeah.
So this probably ended as a draw or something, but this is not the current position, I don't think. Let's see what's happening. Did Dane manage to swindle? All right, so.
Well, the interesting thing is there's still the camera. We have the camera up today, thanks to Dane, and still shows that they're there.
Interesting.
I'm gonna refresh my page, but I guess the camera's frozen.
So maybe
I'm trying to make out the board. Yeah, and it looks like the board's a bit old as well. So they have looks like the rook is still on. So, oh, now the camera died. Okay.
The camera died?
Yeah, according to my feed.
Okay. Oh man. So okay, so it seems as if, at least as far as you can tell, because I'm going to assume that Murphy Tim is done, but we just aren't getting moves because I can't see. The clock updated to 27 minutes. Oh, they made quite a few moves. Okay, let's go back, and I think this is where. Okay, all right. So yeah, this time situation looks more realistic. 25 minutes to currently 27 minutes to Jordan and just under 3 for William. And these positions are tricky, partly because it's difficult to avoid the queen trade. And once you get to a king and pawn ending, you should not enter a king and pawn ending by feel. Because at that point, you can calculate everything concretely. And I made a mistake a recent tournament where I won't go into the details of why I did it, but I ended up forcing a transition to a king and pawn ending without actually calculating it. And I mean, not calculating it thoroughly. And I calculated one, I saw one move, I said, okay, this automatically loses. And didn't look at the other move, and all of a sudden I went from a draw to a possible win to a loss in one move. It was pretty devastating. But yeah, and so here, William allows the transition to the king and pawn ending. But if you need a game to be concretely calculated, and you need somebody to act as your champion, you couldn't do worse than ask Jordan Tim to be your guy. And yeah, at this point, it's once the king, in general, in these king and pawn endings, once the king can get to any of these squares ahead of his pawn, then he's pretty much winning. So Jordan came
topsy-turvy game, because William was
topsy-turvy.
better in the opening and then a good portion of the middle game, but then the end game Jordan defended well throughout, obviously, but then the end game, yeah, Jordan took over a bit, but then he blundered the a pawn to the perpetual idea, but then he managed to fight back in the end game. So yeah, it's just a topsy-turvy game, but credit to Jordan for the defense.
For the fighting spirit, I mean, because he could have at different points just accepted, okay, it's going to be a draw, but he don't play that. So he just kept on fighting and fighting and fighting. And it is frustrating / demoralizing to always be this close to your goal and then get slapped back, right? Which is kind of what I felt was going on for William there. So, okay, we're left with the last game of the night, I believe, which is Dane Zagar versus Matthew Krusak. And yeah, I wonder, along the lines of what we just watched, is it possible for Dane to find a way to trick his opponent into allowing a losing king and pawn ending?
It is. I mean, it's chess. There's pretty much always some sort of trick or idea, but Dane's down 9 minutes. He only has 8 minutes left. I don't know. I would be quite surprised if Dane won this.
Yeah, actually, right now I'm looking at if he plays rook g4 and his opponent moves his rook somewhere random, then rook g7 might put black at a critical position. The king has to go back, and then it's going to be difficult to defend those pawns on the 6th rank. So say rook here, maybe he has to go here, and then here, and rook goes somewhere, I don't know, maybe over here to get checking distance, and then there. But I guess it's not trivial because how exactly is
I don't. Yeah,
going to get in?
I don't know if you let the rook in like that. Maybe we just play rook f7.
So here,
Rook F1, then Rook F7.
Rook F1, and then Rook F7, yeah. Yeah, and then that should be drawn. All things being equal. But things are not always equal. So if the king can get to E4, no, it should be a draw. As long as Matthew is alert, he should be able to hold this. But as you alluded to earlier, this is chess. Strange things can and often do happen. So we'll see.
Was it what I think you've said this before? Both players always have the right to blunder.
Yes. Right. So we'll see. We'll see what happens here. I think I don't think there'll be any draw offers too early here. At least none coming from Dane. So it could be in for a longish night. Let's see if there are any other games that have been input.
I don't think we ever looked at. Oh wait, did it get inputted?
There's Juan Perez versus Joel Kennedy.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at. Maybe that would be a good one to look at.
Yeah, let's see what's going on with that. So E4, Siciliano. Huh. Interesting. I don't. So sometimes you'll get a transposition to a Benoni type setup out of the Pirates. I'm not sure I've seen it like this out of the Sicilian, but that's usually because I guess in the Open Sicilian, most everybody is capturing on D4.
Now, why not F4 on move 7 instead of Bishop E3?
Yeah, I was wondering that myself, but I think they figured they were developing with tempo. Was why they played that way, but F4 isn't without some risk, I guess, but actually it is without risk because this guy's still on E7, so the queen isn't swinging over to the king side anytime soon. And so yeah, F4 here it seems like it would have been pretty mean-spirited.
I mean, it might not be better than Bishop E3, but it's interesting. You should look at it.
Interesting. I mean, I think it's also difficult though because you manage to double Black's pawns, and then you're going to help him undouble them.
Yeah,
but then you weigh
you need to have quick play to justify it. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you can if you look at it and you analyze deeply, you could say, well, you know what? Yeah, I undouble his pawns, but I don't need to think about it that way. I need to think about in a different way, saying I am making room for my steamroller. So, for example, right, if you look at it as I'm not undoubling his pawns, I'm removing obstruction so that this guy can move forward. Maybe even play this immediately. And then after here, then here. And now Black's position is problematic, right?
Abysmal. Yeah, it's awful.
And in fact, in this position, oh man, I'm so silly. I must be on something wrong because this is just winning the piece.
Oh yeah, it's pretty tactical.
So yeah, and so if Black has to play here or here, actually this one would be even more oogly. Okay, that's just for fun, but you get the idea. So F4 actually does have that going for it, and I think it's a teaching moment for me anyway about how to look at these positional factors. That yeah, you don't want to undouble the pawns, but if you can get your pawns, part of the reason for getting control of the center is so you can move those pawns to harass the enemy pieces. And in any case, the argument against undoubling the pawns falls apart after you see that black can play e6, and already he's undoubled the pawns on his own.
Yeah.
So f4 I think would have been a better way, and bishop d6 seems like it's playing with fire, kinda.
Well, why not? Why not bishop b5? And if bishop d7, yeah, in this position, then we play takes e6. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So black would need to play something like this instead, which
Yeah.
has to be all kinds of healthy, not. Um, I mean, that king can't be happy with his life.
No. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's definitely have been
So
better.
yes, which of course, okay, sometimes we want to remember these principles, these guidelines that, well, don't play a piece in the opening twice unless you have to. But you always have to weigh that. E6 at this stage of the game, with the king still in the center, should suggest that, okay, well, maybe you can break the rule, and the bishop isn't really doing anything on d3, but meanwhile on b5, it's causing problems. And so, yeah, even at this moment, bishop b5 might have been a consideration. But I think it still puts black in a bit of a bind as to how to respond to it, right?
Yeah, it's the same idea. He was just
Yeah.
a bit too passive. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, now it seems as if black isn't receiving any punishment for their opening play. Well, I suppose one can say that that's punishment. I don't know about that one. Let's see. Well, he wants to get his rook into d7, I suppose.
Yeah, I think you need to play like queen c8 after that. Oh wait, but then you lose the pawn. Oh, this is tricky.
Yeah, this is tricky.
Some
Juan has come up with an interesting idea here. So, yeah, rook d7.
somehow after like
What in the? Oh, okay. He's doing his own.
that just loses everything.
Yeah, I know. It's like you go into Pac-Man mode. Okay. Oh, that's a full rook, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a full rook. So this is probably even better than doing the Pac-Man when you get only a piece. If you maybe take this one. Or yeah, in this case you only get a piece, I think.
Yeah.
It goes back. Well, I guess you could exchange off some more material. Wait, you're a rook here, aren't you?
No, we're a piece up.
Piece up, yeah. Piece up. Okay, yes. Piece up. So yeah, so maybe you play something like this to force off more material and then bring the rook to d1 and it's easy. But yeah, just rook instead of all of that business, Juan plays the most efficient, just take the rook. And yeah, this is Brutal. Ruh-roh. All right. Poor Joel. What? So how did that come about? Okay, there. First of all, so the first mistake, I think, yeah, black. There's a reason why all the strong players in this position will capture on d4. And okay, it's a bit, if you dig down, the reasons are a bit sophisticated, but one of the least sophisticated reasons is so as not to allow white to get the space advantage for free. You notice how many of the later problems for black were accentuated by that d5 pawn, and the general space advantage he had. That was
Yeah,
obvious.
it's as simple as you don't have a good square for the knight.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, actually, in this position, I think bishop b5. Well, bishop b5 isn't as strong here until black plays e6. So even here, after b6, um, rook, sorry, f4 might still be doable here. Maybe it's not as
Yeah,
strong though, because that could come to g4.
yeah. I mean, but for
Um,
black, to help out Joel, maybe g6 perhaps, and bishop
yeah,
g7.
so yes, so for black, I think after bishop d3, then maybe g6 is a better way of developing. I get it. The temptation to play e6 is greater, but the bishop isn't really doing that much on this diagonal, where it might be possible for it to do something here, or even come here and just solidify the king's position before you counterattack against white center. Uh, and then even in this position, there is an interesting argument for knight g4. Um, but that takes you away from your main goal of developing your pieces as quickly as possible. So I don't necessarily recommend it. And there's also bishop g4 that Joel could play. And
Yeah,
there's another possibility. Because white didn't play the most active moves, and so black has a little bit of liberty in what and how to go about the opening. But in general, I think g6 at this moment might have been better. If you're behind in development and behind in space, the deficits in development probably counts for more, and so your first priority should be trying to get your king to safety without any major accidents. And so, yeah, maybe playing for g6, or if you still want to get e6 in, then maybe you need to consider a6 to make the b5 square inhospitable to the white pieces. It is an extra move, and which you're not developing a piece, but you're already behind. And so one of the things you need to consider when you're behind, yeah, you want to get your pieces developed, but you also want to make sure that the opponent doesn't have the ability to drop a missile on your head. And
yeah.
so a6 comes in as a possibility. Just since b5 ended up being an important attacking point.
No, those
Um,
are good tidbits. A6 and G6, and just don't play E6 too soon, and Joel would have had a solid position.
yes. So it seems like, okay, wow. It's a good thing we both guessed right here on the final result of Dane versus Matthew. So let's go back. We were here. Matthew found a nice way to build a force field around his position and keeping Dane's king out. And that was enough to hold the draw. So really good fights for round one, for sure. None of the games seemed, well, okay, maybe Robert's game, where Robert just decides to go nuts with B4 and all that business. But otherwise, the top games seem to be pretty hard fought. And many of the games in the Open were also fairly interesting fights. Did we ever go over Jules' game against Jeremy?
We did, I believe, yeah, because that was.
I don't
Oh,
think we
wait,
did, but we can do it. We'll go quickly over it. Well, not we won't go as in depth, I guess, because
oh yeah, we did.
I guess it's going to get a bit late in the evening. But yeah, we didn't look at this because I don't remember. This is the first Gobava I'm seeing tonight.
Yeah, I had looked at this personally, but yeah, we should look at this quick.
Now here, I don't know if B5, G6, or maybe after here, castling queenside first. So here, and then castle queenside. With the idea, oh, but then this guy's hanging. That's the issue. So then you can play F3. And basically, I'm looking at maybe ramming this guy into G6, if given a chance.
Yeah.
Because now you lose the pawn. Oh. Is this working for her? I don't think so. Let's see. Yeah, it's not working for her. And now all she needs is one tempo. Oh, not she. One. Jeremy just needs one tempo to get his pieces to make more sense. And there you have it. Although it's still not over. Wow. What is okay. Okay. Nice one. So Jeremy is taking advantage of that. And now it's all come undone. Oh dear. Let me see. So Jeremy is putting the pressure on. And this is a thing that we've seen in previous games too, where it's too easy once you've won some material to relax and, I don't know, stretch out, get a cup of coffee, whatever, and not keep as much pressure on the opponent as possible with the idea that, oh, the position will just win itself. No, everyone tonight has seemed to keep on playing as actively as possible, and I think that's a good thing. And here, Jeremy exchanges of queens, which, by the way, this is a nice tactic, this D3 business. Giving up one pawn for the B pawn, so that even when they go to the ending, White's pawns, her pawns are not in good shape. the exchange of queens, and just a piece up, and a modicum of care should produce the desired result at this point. With tempo. And now we've got the steamroller ready to go. That was a nice game by Jeremy. I think he took his chances when he had them, and once he got the advantage, he didn't rest on his laurels. He, kept playing as actively as possible. With the extra material is only useful when it's doing something. If you've got a really nice looking Ferrari parked in your garage, it's not helping you enjoy a Sunday drive. And so I think that's an important point to always come home, is to try and keep your pieces as active as possible, even when you're quote unquote winning, because you're not winning until you actually win, which sounds kind of corny, but okay, it works. So
Yeah,
yes, I
and
guess
for
covered all the games. Yeah.
and for Jules, this game, I would say that, I mean, on move 9, I think was when she really had her chance. When I would guess the eval bar was peaked for her, probably throughout the entire game. When Black played H6, I've gotten so many positions similar to this in online games, and White just needs to take that bishop on G6.
On
'Cause then
G6, yes.
Black has to completely ruin their structure with this double G pawns, and G6 is weak now, and E6 is weak. And not only does Black have weaknesses, but you have the light squid bishop to attack those light squid weaknesses. So
Exactly.
that was really her moment. But even after that, obviously she was all right. But then, yeah, obviously it was Bishop G7 that lost her the game.
And actually, it's also interesting. This is continuing on your point. I think this is kind of an important moment to reflect on understanding the reasons for what you're doing in the opening. So I'm usually on the pretty much always on the black side of this kind of position, and I understand the dangers of this pawn structure, to say here and here. So I'm already fighting tooth and nail to make sure that doesn't happen if I can avoid it. But it seemed like on some level she played bishop d3 because that's what you always play, rather than looking at the specific reason for why you brought your knight to e5. And maybe that's part of the thing that she could fix for the next time she plays this. Because I think I'm actually encouraged. She's It seems like she's really decided this is my opening, and she's played other games where maybe it's the case that the opponent walked into a line she knew and she'd have a really great position after a few moves. But yeah, in this case, in fact, it was so funny because I didn't even notice it as we're quickly going over the game that knight g6 was a possibility. I think I started paying attention after this exchange happened. But even here, yeah, she's still fine, and I think it was important at this moment to make a tactical inventory and notice that this pawn is hanging or is in danger because it's insufficiently protected. It has one attacker and one defender, and that defender is under attack. Besides that,
And
just in
technically,
general,
I think we can delay f3, right? Because if knight takes e5, takes e5, knight takes g4, f3. So maybe we don't even need to defend it.
so we just go here.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's a point. Because I think one of White's plans is probably getting this guy in. I mean, I know often h5 is chosen, but I think a lot of those times it's because we're trying to get that bind, and that's before we exchange off bishops, because that's the piece that usually gets squashed by these pawns. But when the bishop isn't around to help defend the square, then maybe g5, g6 is another idea. But yeah, I mean, I think I encourage you to continue working on fine-tuning her understanding of this opening, because I could tell you from my own point of view, it's one of the more annoying systems for me to have to deal with. I don't like playing against the Cabala London in any of its forms. So yeah, and then here maybe she just withdraws with her bishop and says, "Okay, you got me," and it's still a game.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, those are some interesting games. I mean,
Yeah.
I really mean that too. We had obviously some quick games like Jacob and Nathan was kind of quick, and Robert and Connor, like you mentioned, but we also had some long games in the top two boards. But yeah, some good games. I'm gonna run through the sponsors real quick before we finish here. So we have I mean, first of all, I would just mention we have the Castle Discord. You can check that out. I don't know how many members we have currently, but doesn't matter. It's the Castle Discord, so jump on it. Be patriotic, I guess I could say, for your club. And then obviously chess goals, like we always announce. They're simple chess courses for non-grandmasters. You can get the coupon code CASTLE, save 30%. That's by our very own Matt Jensen. And then the other sponsor is Webeccentric. You can use the discount code CASTLE for 15%. Webeccentric is empowering small businesses and startups through tailored digital solutions. Webeccentric specializes in custom web development, cloud solutions, and digital strategy for small businesses. With over 25 years of experience, Webeccentric brings enterprise-level expertise to businesses of all sizes. We're here to help. Reach us at webeccentric.com and shop with us at shop.webeccentric.com. And the shop.webeccentric.com is the merch store. That's where you can get the Team Scandy if you're into that sort of weird stuff. And yeah, some mugs, I believe, and some like beanie hats, whatever you call those hats. But yeah, so check that out. And that's run all by Johnny. So you can thank Johnny if you see him at the club.
Cool.
Yeah. Any parting words? Okay, before we sign off.
No, I think we said quite a bit about what's the games are pretty interesting. I think I'm kind of looking forward to what the next couple of rounds are going to be, because this is we have a pretty strong field and fighters. We don't have anybody who's taking loafing rounds or anything.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. We have Connor, we have Nate, we have Dane, it's Eddie. We have a lot of different players who could win, and who knows, maybe we'll get a big upset. But for now, that'll do it for us.
One more mini announcement. The broadcast will be having an upgrade next week. I am New Bear is going to be paired with you, I think. So I'll be enjoying that from the comfort of my couch, I suppose. So
that you're right. Yeah, that New Bear's coming on next week, so that'll be fun.
Yes. All right. See you guys.